everybody, and welcome to this demo. We've got these lovely buttercups sitting so beautifully in the sunshine in this lovely blue pot. I am working on pastel matte paper here. This is the dark blue color, and the size is kind of larger than I have been working on recently. It's about 35 centimeters by 30 centimeters. You can see I've got a very rough outline, mainly of the pot and the shadow. It's really important, if you've listened to any of my other demos, I say it over and over again, but when it comes to drawing your man-made objects, teacups, kettles, pots, jugs, you really got to make sure that you get that right. Otherwise, it's going to look, if it looks wonky, it's going to be like a red flag to a bull. It's literally going to be so noticeable. So for that reason, I put in quite a nice dark outline so that I don't have to faff around too much getting the shape right. Now, let me just tell you, there are loads of times I have to faff around to get the shape right. But anyway, I try my best. I go in with a nice dark outline. I'm not too worried about the buttercups and the leaves in terms of getting an outline done, because I kind of will pastel as I go along. So I generated this image using Midjourney. I find it is such an amazing reference tool, and that's exactly what I use it for. I've been pasteling now for 5 years, so I've just a little bit of knowledge, not tons, but I have learned a thing or two. So it is quite easy to be able to spot mistakes. Because it's an AI generated image, there is going to be mistakes. The way the flower is sitting, what it looks like, the shadow, that stem's going in the wrong direction, that shadow doesn't make sense. And obviously through years of copying from life and photographs, you gain a knowing of how things should lay more. So I was able to bring that knowledge into this piece. There were a few things that were off. So AI, what I'm trying to say, I think, is when you're starting out, yes, it is a wonderful tool, but if you're starting out with your pastels or your drawing, whatever it is, I would rather recommend painting from life or photographs. Because obviously with the AI, you may be able to notice something looks a bit off, but not quite sure what it is meant to look like, So anyway, but of course you can use AI if you're starting out, whatever. That's just my little 2 cents, because I think every single AI image I've generated, there's always been some type of realistic mistake on there that doesn't make sense, that I'm needing to fix. Okay, let's talk about the actual pasteling now, shall we? So laying in a background, I just wanted, the whole point of this was I wanted that feeling of sunshine, happiness and warmth. And then using the complementary colors of the blues and the yellows, like the orangey yellows, and having that intense shadow on the wall, because that again screams sunshine. So starting in with the background, as I normally do, I left the shadow till last. Obviously that's part of the background, and I did the foreground before the shadow, but I just decided to put the shadow in last, as I said. This one, I kept the actual overall image less detailed than some of my other pieces. Like I said, for me it wasn't so much about the details, it was more about the feeling. It was more about needing to, or wanting to, capture that feeling of warmth and sunshine. And I guess, when it's a beautiful sunny afternoon and you're just chilling on the veranda or patio, that's kind of like the feeling I wanted to get across more than anything. So if you have a look in the leaves, it's literally just pastel strokes. There isn't much detail in the leaves or the buttercups at all, really. A little bit more detail in the pot, but again, not so much. This is a glazed pot and you can see all the crackling in the glaze. I didn't put that in. I could have come over with my pastel pencils and put in those details, but if I put in those details in the pot, I felt like I would need to put in those details into the leaves and the buttercups too. And I wasn't going for that. I was going for something a bit looser. I felt like in the end, that's what I wanted to achieve with this. You can see when I'm zoomed in here, those leaves, it's literally pastel strokes. I've started with my darks, gotten the most beautiful, it's my favorite. One of my favorite dark green pastels is 155 Bronze Green Deep by Sennelier. It's like a dirty, swampy yellow green, very, very dark, and it's phenomenal. So that's what I've used in there. That's the darkest green that you can see. It almost looks black, but it's not black. And then building up with a lot of yellow base greens, and literally the Blue Earth pastels are these small square pastels, and they lend themselves so well for making marks that just look like leaf strokes. All you do is literally lay down the side of the pastel and swipe away. Oh, I've got these little bugs jumping around here. I know that sounds terrible, you know, these little fruit fly things. Sorry. Okay, back to the painting. So I just was using strokes of different value greens for my leaves. That's it, basically. And then on the pot there, you can see I used a mixture, again, Mount Vision. I'm using Unison. I just literally, I go for color most of the time, so it doesn't really matter what brand it is. But sometimes I will choose a brand based on the shape. For example, like I've just gone in and said about the leaves, I used a lot of the Blue Earth pastels. Simply, the colors are stunning, but the shape of the pastel, like I said, is just such a good shape for getting in strokes that are leaf-like or petal shaped. So starting with the background now, the shadow. You can see in the shadow, there's lots of different colors in there. It's not just gray, you know, and the same tone of gray throughout. There's actually nuances in shadows. And actually, when I generated this AI image, you could actually see that in the image. It wasn't just a flat shadow. And I was very happy about that, because obviously if you go outside and you study shadows, you'll see that there's color in there. It's not flat gray. So using a lot of kind of like violet browns, orange browns, very grayed down browns, to get the nuances in the shadow. The darkest part of the shadow is my good old trusty Grey 13 from Unison. It's a stunning shadow color, especially when it's the cast shadow that is closest to the object, where it's the darkest. It's such a beautiful dark. It's not black. It's like a very, very dark brown. So it works really well. Also using a lot of my pastel pencils in here. They are a wonderful tool for cleaning up. You can see I'm doing a lot of cleaning up, bringing in the wall color into the shadow, just to make things a little tidier and really just, like I said, do a cleanup. They're really good. So I felt like the buttercups needs more detail. They're a little bit too meh. Now, if you look at the reference photograph, there's not a lot of detail in there at all. So I actually just jumped onto Pixabay and I grabbed a photograph on there of buttercups. They're not in season here. They're summer flower or weed, whatever you want to call it. So they're not in season at the moment. So I go to Unsplash or Pixabay, or maybe you've got in your photo reference, and I could see so much more detail in this photograph, because obviously it was a real photograph, not an AI generation. And I decided there was just too many details. I didn't want all those details in them. Like I said, because if you make the buttercups really detailed, I'd feel like you need to follow that through for the whole piece, for the leaves, and then for the pot as well, to kind of match, so it balances out, if that makes sense. So I'm just putting in loose strokes. My thinking here is, let's get a dark, a mid-tone, a light, and a little bit of a center, and then that's it. But if you're interested, you can check this out over on my Patreon. It's over there on real time. I've also got a few other soft pastel and pastel pencil tutorials on there. just showing you basically my process and what I do, a range of subjects from fruit to still life to floral to portraits. So I hope you've enjoyed this, but this is coming to an end now, and I shall see you next time. Bye for now.